Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Clues, Cues and Reviews, and this is a late video of Fairy Tail. I say a late video because I was hoping to do this yesterday when Fairy Tail did come out. Unfortunately, not able to do that. If you look at my upload from my last video, which if you haven't seen, please check it out, the 7 Deadly Sins Nanatsu no Taizai catch-up video. You can see that I delivered that quite late, about 12ish. To bed, to get up for fasting, and then work. So as you can imagine, tight schedule. Anyway, so this video is getting recorded around about 11 PM. So hopefully this video drops similar kind of time to last time, and then hopefully tomorrow, time permitting, I should be able to get in Black Clover and hopefully World Trigger. Hopefully, World Trigger from an translation point of view only really came out on Monday, which is why it's delayed, and I want to do everything as a whole. Then Thursday Bleach should come out, and then if Boku comes out on the Thursday, I'll do the catch up for Boku, and then build up from there pretty much. So hopefully we'll get into the flow of things. I know there'll be Platinum End coming out. I know Dragon Ball Super's been coming out. There's a few things that I still need to catch up on, animes and whatnot as well, but bear with me. Let's get into this review. So as this is a catch-up chapter video, I guess I'll be doing 485, 486, 487, 488. This part of the segment is 485, 5 days worth of food. So there's a lot of different things that happen with this. We've got a little few tidbits, and you could really break this up into a couple of segments. Segment number 1 is basically more to do with Natsu, Lucy, Brandish and Mest. So the idea is it's a conversation initially about August. We find out that he's actually quite nice. He's probably one of the nicest fellows in Alvarez, and you could see that from before when Laxus was basically going to bombard Agil, I believe it was, his name was, the Sand Dude. And August saved him, basically saying he doesn't want to lose any comrades. So I thought that was kind of cool, and you could see the niceness, and he cared for his people, quite wise. And he basically said the problem is with him is he's actually quite loyal, and that loyalty burns fiercely. So it's interesting to have that kind of parallel, that dynamic, I guess, opposite kind of thing with him, where he's got a good thing about him and a negative thing about him. Mess is still kind of like, oh, I don't trust her, and why did you let go, and she's meant to be a prisoner, oh, give it over already. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, it's very, I think there's like a degree of a Fairy Tail that's very old school, very kind of, oh well, without war we'll take her for prisoner, and the new gen is very much the new gen. They're very more free and forgiving and things like that. Obviously the difference of personality, Natsu just says she's a nice person, it doesn't really matter. I think that's one of his redeeming qualities above all his boneheadedness, is he does actually decently have a more or less good judge of character. Obviously there are exceptions to that rule, and he can be an idiot. Anyway, the best part of that is the fact that they make Happy into a giant and they use him to walk because it's a long journey. So that's that segment. The other segment kind of goes back to Fairy Tail, and it's the continuation of the whole thing with Kana and Mavis wanting to destroy the Lacrima shields to let out Fairy Heart, I guess. I don't know if they think that she can take over the body. I think that, I'm trying to remember how far back that was. That might be the case. It was interesting that we had a flashback in a way to Fairy Tail 0 to 0. That was kind of cool. And how Kana reminded her of her, and because if she grew up she'd end up like you. Then we see this whole part about Kana getting drunk, so maybe not. That was kind of cool, that was funny. Then the rest of it, the big segment is in Northern Fiore. So there's two parts to this. So we get the battle with Gajil, and then we get the whole Sabretooth thing, and then we get something else. So the battle with the Gajil and the Fairy Tail crew are basically going after the stooges, the fodder of the army for Alvarez, and the sheer numbers is what's pushing them back, and everyone's doing their thing. So that's how it starts, and then we kind of go to Fairy Tail, and basically Sting is being a bitch. Don't get me wrong, the guy's a powerful dude, but the guy's an emotional wreck. And I get that he's young, and I get that he's not really that emotionally mature, and he hasn't gone quite through as much as some of the Fairy Tail members and a lot of other characters. But being that he's meant to be one of the 7 dragon slayers of legend, and he's come from the past, future, and all this other stuff, you'd honestly think that he'd have a bit more oomph about him, but no. And then it takes a slap out of nowhere by Yukino, who literally slaps him to his senses and basically says, "You're the bloody guildmaster, get your act together," which then spurs on the whole Sabretooth crew, which is where the 5 days worth of food comes from, because they want to feast, Sabretooth, hunting, prey, you get the idea. Anyway, that part was cool. And then we get Eileen with her crew, and they're talking about, oh, do you not want to get involved in the battle? Eileen's got 2 kind of stooges, I guess, that we mentioned before in an earlier video. And she mentions Bradman and Rahim. It says them 2 are in the battle, will be fine. Now, this is kind of pushing forward, being that I'm up to date with 86, 87, 88. Even till now, we haven't seen Rahim. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's capable of. We do get to see Bradman, but I'll cover that later on. Now, when they do initially show the Reaper that is Bradman, the god of death, basically, he basically shits up Sabretooth members, and they're like, oh my god, not again, he's the one that crucified us and stuff like that. And then Gajeel attacks, and Gajeel is pissed because him crucifying Sabretooth reminded him of when he attacked Fairy Tail, and he did that to Levi and the rest of them, and it kind of left a sour taste in his mouth. So that was quite interesting that we had that flashback. There's a lot of flashbacks, and I like the fact that previous stories are being reintroduced into the story again, and kind of reminds us where they've come from and where they want to go. So an interesting chapter, quite a little bit going on. Let's wait for the next one. So it is now 12 o'clock, and we are looking at chapter 486, the 4th guest. Now, this again is a chapter that's kind of spread over a few different areas, so we'll kind of break it down from that degree as well. So the first thing we'll start off is with Bradman versus Gajeel. So you see him a little bit at the beginning of the chapter, kind of going in there, and you see that Bradman doesn't use a stable body, in the sense where he's not completely solid, so he's quite kind of gassy, I guess, so he uses a different type of makeup than Gajeel was expecting. We later find out that it's magic barrier particles, and he goes, "Thou hast touched death," and then Gajeel comes out with a cool comeback about finding a plot of land and stuff like that. I thought for a comeback that was actually pretty good. What's quite interesting for the battle is the more the battle kind of thing, he keeps banging on about death. Bradman is always banging on about death, and Gajeel says, "I don't care, my lungs are made out of iron, I'll be completely fine." And then Levi jumps in to help him out using her abilities, and she uses her script magic to build a mask. And the idea that I found that was quite cool about this chapter was from a relationship point of view, from a fandom point of view as well. We've always been banging on about these relationships, and one of them has been about Gajeel and Levi. It's been there for a while, no different than Elfman and Evergreen. So this is kind of cool that they actually had that time to kind of come together and explain that it's about living together and carrying on for each other, and that's why they're battling together. So that in itself was cool. Aside of that, I mean, the Reaper type of technique and seeing all the bones and stuff like that was cool. It kind of reminded me of Brooke from One Piece in a way, the whole kind of Reaper thing. And that's a theme for a separate story, but for a separate video. That's a story for another day. But I thought that was kind of cool. We do find out more in the other chapters, but I'll break that down when the chapters happen. So that was pretty much the Gajeel and the Bradman battle, which I found kind of cool. Now, the second part to discuss was about Natsu's crew kind of running in or sensing August. They really are building August to be this big bad mofo, to the point where like Mest and everyone's like, oh my god, he's like in a completely different world. They reinforce this in a later chapter. I'll break that down again and mention it at that point. But yeah, the idea that August is on another level is really important. And the same thing with Eileen, because again in further chapters they talk about this, but these two are effectively stronger than God Serena, and that's one of the reasons why God Serena probably followed them, realizing this as well. So it kind of shows them at another level. However, just because you're so strong, there's indeed going to be a type of weakness. I got a post on my Facebook, apologies about that, but anyway, another one. So the idea that these people are exceptionally strong and they're crazy in their own area, and August meant to be the knower of all magic, is quite an interesting dynamic. From an enemy point, it's worrisome, but if it's possible to make them a friend, there's quite a bit you could learn from someone like August. So just an interesting kind of dynamic to touch on there. Then we talk a little bit more about Eileen. So the Eileen, I really need to know what she's about. There's a theory I put out there that she's related obviously to Erza, and she could be an elder relative, or she could be like a counterpart, so like they're connected in sense, so they might be part of one being and they've been separated. That's the idea with that. So we'll hopefully find out something about that. If you wanted to be more realistic, they could say, okay, well, you know, she's Erza's relative, and being that Zareth has been around for a while, he would have seen, you know, certain bloodlines develop certain powerful beings over time, and that's why he's picked certain people. In any case, that's again another story for a different day, for a different video. Cool. So Eileen's basically telling her two subordinates to go help out Bradman and Rahim, and they're basically saying, do they really need help? And then we get told about the third guest being a tad bit troublesome. So we get a breakdown. So the first guest was Pegasus and Sabretooth. The second guest was Fairy Tail. The third guest is the return of Russian Seas. Cool, that is like Olympia kind of moving robot. That was kind of funky. But the fact that they're back, that they're relevant to the story again, is always a positive thing to see, because I've been waiting for a while to see them. So that's one point. Then what takes it to another level is the mention of the fourth guest is none other than Acnologia, which sets up a battle between the King of Dragons and the Scarlet Witch, which is Eileen. So that has to happen at some point. I cannot wait. It hasn't been fully happened right now. To give you a bit of a tidbit for the future chapter that I'm reviewing today as well, they do meet, but we'll talk about it then. So that's crazy how that is going to happen, bearing in mind he basically took out God Serena like there's nothing else. He just went, pow, you're done, you're nothing to me, you know, be on your way. That in itself was brilliant. When he knocked him down, he goes, the 7 Dragon Slayers left, and he's going to come after the rest of them. So that in itself was amazing. That we'll have to see more of. We haven't seen Eileen's power, but she does something to the ground, and it sets up this big chain reaction, to the point where even Zareth from further away notices this. So how powerful is Eileen? I cannot wait to see. I'll see you in the next chapter. So chapter 487, the third seal. So when I read about the chapter name the week before when this came out, the first thing I thought about was Third Origin. I thought they've already mentioned Third Origin. What's this third seal about? We do get to find out later on in this chapter. But before getting into that, we'll break down a few of the things that's going on. We don't see much of Eileen in this chapter, so that really doesn't happen. The main chapter is really focused on the situation with August and the battle in the north. We don't see much of Eileen though. Anyway, so we get the confrontation between August and Natsuo's crew. The conversation starts. Metz is basically flaking out to the difference in power that August possesses, so really emphasizing how powerful August is, to the point where they say Brandish's power is like crazily high, but August is in another hemisphere, basically, it's in another world. That's how much difference there is between these folk. So the higher you go up the echelon of the Spriggan 12, the crazier and the crazier the power gets. So I'm guessing the idea of some people is that you've got Bradman, you've got Rahim, you've got people like God Serena. They're probably the middle tier, and the higher tier are Eileen, possibly Imvel, possibly. And considering he's with Zareth all this time, and August, and then you've got the other people below. So as they're going up the story now, as more and more people are losing and they're defeating the Spriggan 12, we're getting to see the upper echelons now and the scary parts of what they're all about. So we find out that in the conversation that August confirms that God's Turner is down, but he says he's here in my heart. Or that's basically what he means. And we also get confirmed that Jacob isn't dead, but he's been basically defeated. Natsu's also sweating at the idea of his power, realizing how much difference there is. And August is not very happy, talking words of betrayal. So that says something interesting there. How are they going to deal with August? I don't quite know, but it's cool. Then we see in the north, we see the Fairy Tail members and the Sabretooth members are going in, which is always a positive sign, but we don't know who they're really fighting other than Fodder. So for the time being, they're just defeating Fodder. That's really what's going to happen. Rahim again has not been introduced. He doesn't get introduced next chapter either. That is going to happen at some point. So moving on to the main component of the fight, we find out they go back to the battle between Kajil and Levi as well versus Bradman. So we find out a few things about seals. The first thing we find out is the first seal is the magic barrier particles that Rahim is made of and utilizes on a regular basis. Seal number 2 is the door to the underworld. Seal number 3 is this crazy Reaper transformation, which pretty much ultimately seals death. So the idea is once he's gone this far, there is no turning back. So this curse power that he uses, it explains that he's not human, he's actually a demon, and effectively this guy is the strongest member, you could say, of Tartarus in a way, because he's the strongest demon and his power surpasses those. So he also explains that he can use the abilities of the knife through his actions. Thankfully he doesn't use words in this one. He basically literally goes out, does his technique, and he starts using attacks on a higher level than compared to, say, members of Tartarus, whether it's the dude with the bloody fish hook mohawk thing going on who use those barriers, or whether it's the guy that used bombs, or whether it's the guy that Tempesta, for example. So it explains that his power is above those, which was cool. Then he went back to that Reaper mode where he sent all the skeletons out with his death magic, right? And there was a skeleton that looked like Brooke. Remember I said in the last video that it reminded me of Brooke? There's actually one there. So he's in the bottom left hand corner. He's on the floor and he's got that scar as well. And the afro. I thought that is homage to One Piece through and through. I enjoyed that. That kind of made me laugh. Now what happens is the Gajil and Levi try to get away, but Levi is down. Levi explains that this whole time she felt weak. She wanted to do something that contributed positively towards this fight, and she's always been a hindrance, and she lied about the mask, so she's basically dying, but she didn't want to come in his way. Gajil, because of this, does not want to lose Levi, and you can see he cares so much for her to the point where it's love, that he panics, he rushes, he wants to do something about it, but as he's throwing his attacks, his hammer and everything else that he's doing, you get the sense that he's running out of time, because he's literally not physically being able to attack Bradman because he's magic particles, right? Now we get internal dialogue, and I thought it's always brilliant to see internal dialogue, because we get to see how the mind works, and we get to see the idea about him not having Gajil not having a car, always falling behind. You got Panther Lily, people having Dragon Force, he didn't have Dragon Force, and this is his time to shine. I cannot believe we finally got to see Dragon Force Gajil go out, and we don't get told where he is, because he literally takes in all the particles, he transforms, he looks even crazier than when he took in the dark particles, the shadow particles from Rogue. He looks a lot crazier than that, and I love the design. It was amazing. He then proceeds to wipe the floor with Bradman, and just when you think it's over, Bradman goes, "I'm not going down easily, I'm taking you with me." So I was dragging him into hell, and I was like, wow, what a fight, what an ending to a chapter, and I could not I could not wait to see next chapter. So let's get into this review for the next chapter. So, chapter 488. I'm very low in my energy at the moment in terms of my tone, because it was a heartfelt moment in this chapter. Me specifically, because of what happens and because it affects one of my most favourite characters in all of Fairy Tail, and that is Gajeel. So Gajeel starts getting drawn into this pull that Bradman has, saying he's going to take him with him. He tries to fight it, and Levy tries to help, and he keeps pushing Levy back, saying, don't, you'll get caught with it. Levy does not care, she just wants to be with him. And it's a really heartfelt moment, and you just keep thinking, is this the end? Is this the end? And she doesn't care, and Panther has to stop her, and Panther Lily, and you can even see Panther Lily knows what's going to happen. And there's like a whole kind of flashback, and he's talking about how Gajeel used to be scum, but you know, she taught him a different way. She taught him to love. She taught him to be a better person. For the little things, the redeeming things about Gajeel, she brought them to the front and made him a better man, as with a lot of people feel that love does. So for those people that says mangaka in action manga and shonen manga don't know how to do heartfelt moments, read this chapter and tell me if that's not the case. I was saddened by it, because at the end of it, I can't even speak right now, but Panther Lily promises he'll take Levy back, and then he gets taken away. This week, I swear down, it's been one of those fucking weeks. I swear. I don't like swearing on these videos, but we had the situation with Meliodas. We've got the situation with Gajeel. What is going on? Is it like kill main characters or kill these people off week or something like that? Because it's not really a positive week when it comes to main characters. But yeah, it was just one of those scenes where I don't have to take it really, because he's one of my favourite characters and I didn't really want him to die. I'm hoping there's a way they can bring him back more powerful than ever, and maybe this is a way for him to get stronger there, kind of develop that Dragon Force and come out with something new. I don't know, but how they ended that, it didn't sit well with me. I really want to see him back, and I'm hoping that something happens we can bring him back. Anyway, moving on to crazier stuff now. We get a comment, and it just says, now there are 6 left. And who is this? This is human form Acnologia, looking menacing as ever, staring a hole through Eileen, and you just think, dude, you just want to rip her head off, don't you? He's like, why are you even bothering? Why are you wasting my time? What are you even doing here? I've got nothing to do with you. He basically wants just to wipe the floor with the Dragon Slayers, because they're like dragons, right? And he wants to be the king of dragons. He wants to be the only one. So which basically means, he's going to come after Wendy, he's going to come after Laxus, he's coming after Natsu, he's coming after Sting, he's coming after Rogue, he's coming after Eric as well from Arashi and Seas. He's coming after them all. He does not care. He's carried them all, he's lining them up, he wants to knock them down. And he basically says to Eileen, he goes, do you know who you're messing with? And she's like, yeah, I'll be alright. And he goes, do you think you can entertain me for more than a moment? And then it kind of goes a bit bizarre, and she basically says it in a pun, or in a way, oh well, since you're a man I am to please. It's like, is she a slag? Is she a hoe? Is she a stripper? I don't know, but she got some crazy magic and she's barely clothed, so there's something going on there, but we're not getting to that. Anyway, so it leaves us with that. We don't really get much more than that. So the confrontation has happened, they're eyeing each other up. That battle will happen at some point. Then we move on to the Brandish talks with August, and it was a proper WTF moment. It really was. We get the talking, and you can see she's winning him over with her words, and it's a fair point what she's saying. She goes, look, a lot of things we're doing is not really, one of those things where they're going to war. It's one-sided. It's really more of a bullying thing, and there's a part where he's kind of like seeing what's going on. And she calls him Grandpa, and I'm like, okay, where's that come from? And then she literally stabs him, and I'm like, what? It was literally a WTF moment, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? And she's like, Grandpa! She just stabs him, and I'm like, whoa. And it turns out it was Mest the whole time. Basically, Mest had reprogrammed her memory, put the sort of thought is regardless of what happens, she needs to kill him, and that prompted her to do that. This whole time in this conversation before the stabbing, Natsu was staring down August the whole time. So when I said last time he looked like he was sweating, maybe because he wasn't aware of how strong August was, but he didn't care at that point. He did not give many fucks about August. He was like, I'll fight him, I don't really care. And he was literally staring him down. So, you know, there's something about Natsu that he wants to fight strong opponents. I think he's willing to do that fight. But by the end of this chapter, probably no. So, we get the stabbing. Natsu confronts Mess, like, what you playing at, basically. And then August gets up. And that face he makes, he goes dark, he's got that pattern on his head. It kind of reminds me of that character from Russian Seas, plus Pure Hito when he goes demon type of mode. It's a combination of those things, and I was like, what the hell is that? So he's ready to go. He means business now. He wants to tear somebody a new one. If he just tears Meth a new one, I'd be absolutely happy with that, because that was a bullshit move by Meth. It looked like it was going well. We fucked it up. I know he meant well, but he didn't go by it the right way. So to be fair, if he gets his ass torn on a new one, I wouldn't really mind, in fairness. The battle will begin. It's going to be crazy. Let's see what Natsu can do against August. Let's just see what happens. I don't know how Brandish is going to be with the whole thing. So that's going to be interesting. And the next tiles, chapter 489, is called Universe 1. So being that August is about magic, and does he know all the magic in this universe? Or is this a situation where, kind of like Byakuran in Hitman Reborn, he can see over many universes and absorb knowledge that way? We're going to have to wait and see. It's a long ass video. Those that made it to the end, thank you very much. I want to get this out there because I want to get back on the horse. I should have internet, not this weekend, the next weekend. So we should find delivery of these videos should be a lot easier. I'll be halfway through fasting by then as well. So fingers crossed I'll be in a better mood and I'll have a lot more energy. I'm still working these next 4 Saturdays. So this next 4 weeks, anything that I normally do on Saturday will be a bit delayed, but bear with me, we will get there in the end. I hope you enjoyed these chapters, and I loved a lot of these chapters for different reasons. Hope you enjoyed this long ass review. For those that stayed with me, give me a thumbs up, let me know in the comment section below what you thought, and as always, please subscribe and I'll see you next time. Peace.